Hello and welcome to Childminding and Beyond with me, Beth.
And me, Sam.
This evening we are talking about how we incorporate books into our early years provisions, whether we incorporate them into setups or leave them out for our little ones to find independently. So, Sam, what do you think?
Okay, we are a lover of books. We've got a number of books in our setting, in our continuous provision. So we've got lots of emotional well-being books on our emotional well-being shelf. So that's all about being kind, differences, how families are different. We've got yoga bunnies in there as well, which is a really good favourite one. Have you read that one, Beth?
No, I was just thinking, I haven't heard of that one.
Yes, Yoga Bunnies. That's a really good one. It's a lovely little story and it incorporates lots of little yoga moves for the little ones as well. So that's a really good one. So we've got those on the emotional wellbeing shelf. And then as I move around my continuous provision, we've got nature ones on our nature shelf. So they will be ones like Wild. So it's all about a little girl who loves being out in the wild, doesn't like being cooped up. Tree, have you seen Tree? Tree is a really good one because it goes through the seasons. So we tend to have those kind of ones out in the nature shelf. Going around, I'm just thinking about going around the setting. In our little baby corner, we've got lots of That's Not My books. Now, lots of people, I think, are under the delusion that actually That's Not My books are just for babies. Do you not think? Like the texture, the big
Yes.
pages, the really quick word, the quick
I
words.
think it's definitely sold as more of a baby, younger toddler kind of book. Um, but it definitely has its advantages for the older children as well, for sure.
Definitely, because lots of our older ones will sit down and read it themselves, making it up, knowing that that's not my bunny. His ears are too fluffy, and then just use the adjectives as well, which is really good use of language. So they will reread it. No, it might not be correct, but that's okay.
I always find the older ones pick it up, and that's pick the book up to read to the younger children.
Yes,
Think
yes.
because they know kind of how the book goes and kind of the gist of it. I think that's quite an easy book for them to kind of feel like that they're reading to the younger children.
Exactly, and that's a really good confidence booster as well, isn't it? And great for literacy because they're understanding that the words carry meaning. They're making up their own story. So, like I say, it might not be correct, but that's fine. Don't go correcting them because otherwise they feel that what they've done is wrong.
Wrong.
So yeah, just give them some more adjectives for them to just turn around, like say fluffy or spiky or bumpy, and that's brilliant to widen their vocabulary. Going round my playroom, I have got a cozy nook, which has got some books in. They've got some story stones and a tray, so they can make up their own stories. And then they've also got a couple of shelves on the. I think they're like IKEA spice racks, aren't they? On the wall, which are seasonal. So at the moment we've got spring. We will soon, I'll swap over in a couple of weeks over to summer. So they've got like the seasonal books, so they change all the time. The other apple crate has got our favourites in, so it will have like the Julia Donaldson, the Gruffalo, it will have Owl Babies, Tiger Who Came to Tea, like the well-known fairy tales that they know. Quite often they'll go,
Out all the time, or do you swap them?
we do swap them. Yeah, it's on our list to swap this week. So the seasonal books will change every season, and they'll be displayed in like a spice rack. Then we've got an apple crate which has got lots of books in, and yeah, they do get changed. I have actually probably got, the boxes that the fruit and veg come in. Like the grapes and that in Tesco's on the shelves, like
Yeah.
the cardboard boxes. I reckon I've got about six of them under my spare bed upstairs with books in because we get sent a lot of books to review. I don't like getting rid of books. I always think, oh, that'll be good for that theme. That'll be
Yeah,
good for,
I'm the
y-
same.
yeah, that'll be good for that celebration. That'll come out in Ramadan. That'll come out in Easter. That's potty training. That'll come out. So you don't want them out all the time. but you also don't want to get rid of them. So yeah, I do have a lot of books. I probably should thin down really. But in the apple crate is our favourites, the ones that they will go to. So Dinosaur Pooped a Planet, like I say, Tiger Came to Tea, that kind of thing. And quite often they'll just go and sit in the cosy den and read a book by themselves. The little ones will just go and snuggle up in there if, you know, if they're feeling a little bit tired or they want a bit of quiet time. And I'll quite often catch the older ones reading to the younger ones, or a couple of, you know, 3 4 year olds sharing a book together. For example, like You Choose, which is a really good
Yes.
book.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's like a book of, you know, if you could live anywhere, where would you live? If you could be anybody, what would you know, what vehicle
I
would you
think
go on?
Nick Sharratt, the illustrator of
Yes.
that. Yeah.
Yeah, it is Nick Sharratt. So yeah, they'll go off and do that independently quite a lot of the times. I'll turn around in the playroom and go, well, where's so and so? And I'll just see some feet in the cozy den. So it's quite nice. It's got fairy lights and blankets, and they'll quite often just go and look at books independently, which I think is brilliant.
Yeah, I love it when I see them all cozied up reading a book.
We've got then some apple crates, and they'll have a book in. So we on our Flissat table, we've got snails at the moment because we're still really into snails. We've got a couple of snail books like Pip and Posy and the Friendly Snail, Sid the Snail That Lost His Trail. So I'll put that with like the bookish plays. We've also got, we had up until recently a potty training apple crate. So we had like a little dolly with a potty, some wipes, some of the Learn Well pants, and a couple of potty books. So I try to incorporate a book into the, you know, into the continuous provision, into the book, you know, into the play. In there we've got a birthday tray that stays out all year round, because it's always someone's birthday, and it's always, they always know it's somebody, you know, there's always somebody's birthday, like mums, dads, grannies, that kind of thing. So there's a couple of birthday books in there, so they tend to stay out all the time. We've also got our story vote. So we'll put 2 books in each morning. They'll vote for which book they want to read, and we'll count that up at snack time, and we'll read the one with the most votes. So it just builds in British values with democracy, giving the child choice.
That idea. I do want to give that a go.
It's really, really easy. We just got 2 pots and a basket of tokens in the middle. They come in, and that's part of our routine. They'll put their name up, their name pegged all up. They'll put some jobs up for the day, and then they'll go and story vote, and they'll choose which one they want to read. And then, like I say, we'll just add it up. It's either morning snack if we're home, or if we're not home in the morning, we'll do it in the afternoon. And yeah, we'll just count up, and we read the one that's got the most votes. And quite often, if they're the same, so they both got 4, we'll talk about how it's unanimous, because, you know, or no, if they've all got one, if there's like 8 in one pot and 0 in the other, we talk about how it's unanimous because everyone's voted for the same. If there's 4 in each, we'll talk about how it's equal and what should we do now. So we normally end up reading both, that kind of thing. Going going round the setting, in our play kitchen, we've added a recipe book, and we've got the Tesco Good Food magazine in there as well, you know, the free magazine you get in Tesco's, because I think it's just different print for them to look at. If we get magazines through the post, so like the Cozy catalogue, Baker Ross, you know, the Smith's toy catalogue, they'll go in the Cozy Den because they like sitting down and looking at that, because it's different print,
Yeah.
and it's just a different, it's just a different form of book really, isn't it, for them to get used to, and it just sparks a lot of discussion. So that's what's out in our setting. We always take a book out with us. So, for example, if we're going to forest school or the beach, we'll take like a themed book with us, and read it out and about as well. The other thing that we do to incorporate books is we have a borrow book system. So obviously, you know, 1 in 5 children don't get a bedtime story? I think it might be higher.
I think it might be higher than that.
I think it's higher than that. So um we read all about that. So we decided we've just got a box, like an apple crate, an upside down apple crate, you know, so it's not on its side, it's on its back, and it's got lots of books in. And once a week the child will come in, and they will choose a book to take home. We record which book they've taken, and we do a monthly sheet. We do a sheet that goes home as well, just to say, what did the parents think of the book, what did the child think of the book, did the child say anything about the book, i.e. did they repeat the refrains, and any book that you would like us to send home. And they might say, so we get a lot of feedback from that. So the parent might go, yeah, it reminded me of my childhood, it was really good, the Gingerbread Man, for example, to share with my child. They kept saying run, they learned to fill in the run as fast as you can, so we can put that down as an observation. The child sat and listened to the book, or the child wasn't keen, or it was a bit long. And then, what book would you like next? And it might say, oh, we've been talking about jobs at home, that kind of thing. So then we'd find a book to incorporate into what they're talking about at home, and then send that.
Yeah.
So that gets changed at least once a week, or whenever they bring the book back in. And we've done that for probably, I want to say, about 18 months now.
Are you
No,
finding
longer than that.
are you
It was
finding
really good.
books are going missing though? They're not coming back.
No, I would say probably 80% of children bring their book back once, twice a week to change. And especially the older ones, it just gives them that little bit of school readiness, bringing the book bag in, taking the book out, putting it back, choosing another one, putting it in the book bag, putting it in the home basket. So it just gives them that little bit of, responsibility and ownership, which, will go along with school readiness. Some forget, some we might get back once a month. Touch wood, none have gone missing. Some have got damaged, but that's just the way it goes. Children will rip off the flaps. My parents are very good. I'll be like, "Oh, I've bought you a new book," and I'm like, "Well, just put the sellotape on. I'm not worried about that." Do you know what I mean? That's what happens. I'd rather the child be using the book than it be pristine and just chucked on the top of a shelf. But yeah, no, they're all pretty good, to be honest. But we build that in from when they start and say how important it is, and yeah.
Yeah, nice. I like that, and I like the fact that you send home a sheet as well to try and again working on that parent partnership.
Yeah, yeah, and it just gives them a bit of responsibility of, like, okay, I'm reading this book, what am I reading this book for? Rather than just reading it, they're like, okay, well, it's a bit like homework, and they can fill it in. And then, you're listening, like you say, you're listening to this parent partnership.
Yeah.
We get some observations out of it as well. Because obviously, you can't just do all the development matters just in the setting, especially if they come like 1-2 days a week. So you get like repeated refrains, or, oh, they spotted the squirrel, was really happy, brilliant, okay, we can expand on that. They were really concerned about this, or they're really interested in jobs, or we're doing potty training, and then I can just send home the book that I know that they're going to read, because it's what they're talking about at home. So yeah, it works really well.
I like that. I like that a lot. Yeah, we've tried to do the book library, but none of my parents took books home. So
I don't put it in my porch or anything. It's in my playroom. So we do it with the children, and it goes in their bags, or it goes in their book bags if they've got, if they're a preschooler. So we do that with the child.
okay.
I feel that if I did it with the parents, some might work, but I feel that, parents are in a rush when they drop off, aren't they?
Yeah.
They need to go to work, or when they pick up, they need to go home because they've got to do tea, they've got to get ready for the next day. And I feel like they are in a rush, which I would be, so that's understandable. And I think it should be child choice of, which book would you like?
Yeah.
We have had to reiterate to parents, because they're like, well, we've got that book at home, or we've had that book a month ago, can we have a different book? I'm fed up of reading that book. And we have to reiterate that actually repetitive reading is really good for them, because they know what comes next, they're more likely to fill in. You're going to have different conversations, it's going to spark different chats about the pages, because they know, oh, I know the snail, I know what's going to happen next. The gingerbread man's going to get eaten. The fox is coming, whereas, because they know that story, they know the structure. So
Yeah.
they know that there's a beginning, a middle, and an end. So by repeating that story all the time is, beneficial learning. So I have had to say to parents that, yeah, if your child wants to read that book 5 times, read it to them 5 times, because they're developing, aren't they? It's a bit like,
Yeah, every time.
exactly. And then they've got confidence. They can, they then know the story. And if they borrow a story which they know, they'll be able to read it to you.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Maybe I'll give it a bit of a go, but more of a, because I kind of just left it to the parents to say, "Oh, should we take a book home?" Blah blah blah. Whereas maybe if we do it from the child's angle, it might
It
work.
is. I mean, it's quite good for child responsibility. It's especially for babies, you've got choosing between two objects. Which book do you want, this one or this one? But the feedback sheet works really well, especially for babies, because they're like, oh, they really like the textured books at the minute, or they really like the lift the flap books at the minute. So then that's what I'll send home,
Yeah, no, I like that.
or the noisy books and that. But the older ones love choosing which book that they can go home. So yeah, I just have a book and write down which book they've chosen, because sometimes the parents will be like, oh, I can't remember which book, and I can just go, oh yeah, they borrowed, Yoga Bunnies, and they're like, oh yeah, I'll look for that. So
Yeah,
it just gives you a bit of, responsibility. You know what book they've taken.
yeah, I like it. I like it. In terms of books here, we've got our bookshelf, which we rotate books every week or every 2 weeks, depending on how interested they are in them. Um, we'll try and leave out the ones that are that they're really interested in at the moment. We'll leave those out for a couple of weeks, and then I'd say about every season, I will go to our local like news agents, and I will just get a whole range of magazines. So whether it's like the, I can't remember what they're called, but like the ones where if you're like redecorating your house, you've got ideas of that. Like recipe books, recipe magazines. Not kid. I'm not saying children's magazines. I mean, like is it Home and Living and the recipe ones. Some about cars. Um, there's like a Christmas one that comes out. Again, like you said, just to add in a different type of print into the setting. We had someone who gave us a load of. I'm presuming their husband is a farmer, and it was like Farmers Weekly or something, and the kids went wild for them. Like just pointing out all the different animals, the different tractors, the different farm vehicles. They loved it. And as much as you can, the children can have a look through farm books and things like that. Having real pictures, and like again different types of text, like rather than being like thick cardboard, it is really flimsy
Yeah.
paper with magazines. Um, they really enjoy those types of ones. Uh,
That's a really good idea. I've never thought about that. I mean, like I say, we've got recipe books, we've got the Tesco magazine,
yeah,
the Cozy catalogue, and they love it because I've got one
it's
that,
different,
um,
isn't it?
but they like just flicking through because, like you say, the pages are easier to turn. There's loads of them, and they'll be like, "Oh, we've got that. Oh, we've got that. Oh, that would be good in our garden," So it's just, and yeah, and there's no expectation, I think, with a magazine neither of like, right, sit down because the story, we're still reading the story.
Yeah,
Whereas with that, they can flick in and out.
yeah,
But doing the magazines, like the Home and Living, like you say, you've got all the seasons and they've got the seasonal colours. You might have Easter eggs, you might have candles, and the cars, the farmers. That's a really really good idea. I love that idea.
yeah. Literally, probably a handful of times a year, I'll just go and spend, I don't know, 20 quid, or even, wow, they're so expensive, some of these magazines, about 20 or 30 pounds, and get however many, like three, four, five magazines, um, just about different topics. Like Simon's really into fishing, so he's had a few fishing magazines. So when he's finished with them, they go in our bookshelf. Um, just like like the hobby magazines.
But not just that. You think of, you could look at that magazine with one 3-year-old, and you'll have a whole different conversation
Yeah,
when you're with a different 3-year-old. Whereas when you're reading a book like Gingerbread Man, he gets baked, he runs away, he gets eaten. That's what happens, isn't it?
yeah,
Whether you read that with a 3-year-old, a 2-year-old, or a 4-year-old.
yeah,
Whereas think about all that vocabulary and all that, you're extending and widening their vocabulary when you're talking, when you're using a magazine. I
yeah.
love that. That's a really good idea. That's something I'm definitely gonna use.
And what I also want to do, I just need to add it to my long list of things to do.
Definitely long list.
Find some sort of child, like a children's article about, I don't know what about, but some sort of child friendly article. So I can print it off and laminate it and put that in the bookshelf as well. Again, just another form of text. And I think those types of articles are more that the text has more of a purpose rather than a storybook.
Definitely. I mean, they all have their own, they all have their own uses. We read a poem at lunchtime. We read a nature poem. We've got like, it's like a Nosy Crow nature poem book, which you've got a poem for every day of the year. And we'll read that at lunchtime. So, sometimes they're really silly, aren't they? They don't really make sense. And we have a conversation about that. And it's, we're talking to them about poems. And then at snack time in the afternoon, we've got a nursery rhyme book, which is one nursery rhyme a year, a day. And we'll read that. And some of them will be ones they know, like Bar Bar Black Sheep. Some of them will be ones like, I can't think now. 1, 2, 3. Mother had a flea, popped it in the teapot, made a cup of tea. Flea jumps out. Mother gave a shout. Down came Dad with his shirt hanging out. Just silly little things like I remember from my childhood that they think is absolutely hilarious because they haven't heard that. And
Yeah,
then we have a conversation. We read it a couple of times. So there's you've got the nursery rhyme as well as the the historical nursery rhymes as well as the poem. So it's just reading them different things, isn't it? And different texts as well.
I never thought about actually reading them a book at meal times.
We have, if we're home, we will have our Storyvote book in the morning snack. If we're not, it's afternoon snack. But every time, if we're home for lunch, which we are majority of the time, because we've got sleepers after lunch, then we've got a nature poem, and it's such a lovely, lovely book. And we read one, one every day, and they've got them for every day of the year, and it's a bit seasonal as well. So yeah, it works really well.
Yeah, I like that idea. I do like that idea.
Sometimes we put books outside.
Yeah.
I'm not great at putting books outside because we teach the children, if they have a book and they don't, we do say they need to put it back. If somebody stands on a book, they all turn around and go, oh no, no, we don't stand on books. Books are precious. So we're teaching them that actually, books need to be cared for and looked after. So I will take some outside and they'll be in like the forest school, where the reading chair and that is, but I probably don't take them out as much as I should do.
Yeah.
Someone said to me the other day, I went on a course, which I'll tell you about in a bit, but one of them said, if you've got an old book and it's all tatty, then tear the pages out, laminate them, and then bind them together, and then you've got an outdoor book.
Yeah, I have heard that. I have heard that. I just, I,
That's something I need to get better with, I think, of leaving them outside in the continuous provision, where we'll take them out. We're going to the beach tomorrow, so at the end of the morning we'll come together and we'll have a story on the beach. But I need to work on maybe leaving books outside.
yeah, yeah. Mine always get lobbed in the water tray.
This is the problem.
It's the one thing. It's like they think, oh, there's a book. I know where I'm going to put that. I'm going to put it in the water tray.
Will it float? Will it sink?
What? Why? Why would you do this?
There are books though that I know you can get on Amazon,
I've
and
yeah,
that
I've got them.
you've told me.
I think I've spoke about them before. They are indestructible. They're not massively storybooks. They are based at young children where they are mouthed and things. Um, but yeah, they are good. They are good, those books, for that purpose. I wouldn't say the stories are very good in them, but
No, but they're good that the babies can have them, and
who
you
want
haven't got to
them?
take them off.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And then in regards to books in the environment, obviously I said we've got the bookshelf, and then if we've got like a big setup, whether it's on one of our big units or in a tray or something, like always try and include a book in with that setup. Um, or if it's kind of a really big setup, I've got you've oh no, you said about the spice racks. We've got the plate racks.
Yeah, we've got those. They're the ones that's in on our nature shelf and our emotional shelf with them all stacked. They work really well, don't they?
Although they are a bit of a safety hazard and as soon as if Emma comes in and I've put one out, she's like, "Ooh," because they just get lobbed on the floor, and then she's scared that someone's going to fall on them.
Yeah, that's fair enough. That's
Um,
fair enough.
so we don't have
There's something to watch.
those little stack of things out that often, but if we've got a big setup and quite a few books that link to that, then we'll pop that out. But yeah, if we've got any little setups, we always have a book with it. Um,
Yeah.
and then during team time, so it's like our circle time in the morning, we will always read a book. Um,
Yep.
and I will lose count on how many children bring me a book to read throughout the day. Whether it's just with them, or normally if you've got one child that's asking you to read a book, you will end up having the whole group at some
Yeah,
point.
you will.
They all gravitate to someone who's reading a book. Um, but yeah, but in fact, I'm the same with you with books going outside. I probably should do it more than I do. Um,
Yeah, so we're open to suggestions, guys. So
yeah,
if you have books outside, then let us know how you cope with them outside, because we can't. Yeah, that's one thing I'm not great at, and I would like to, I'd like to have them outside because they want to just find a little nook or cranny to sit in and read books. But yeah, I haven't found that balance yet.
no,
Um, I did go on a training course the other day, and they were saying about how children, the young ones, can't sit and listen to a whole story, and giving them too much vocab is, they can't understand it, especially like the 2-year-olds. So I'll give you an example. So, do you know Owl Babies? I think everyone knows the Owl Babies story.
yeah,
So what they were saying was, when you read it to a 2-year-old, don't read all the words because they haven't got that understanding for all the words. So just give them 1 or 2 words on each page. So turn it and say, Sarah, Percy, Bill. Turn it again. Mummy. Turn it again. Mummy gone. Turn it again. Owl, baby owl sad. Turn it again. Baby owl's waiting. Turn it again. Mummy back.
yeah.
Turn it again. Baby owl's happy.
I suppose they
And then
know that half the book's missing.
that then they are then concentrating on those 2 or 3 words that you're giving them each page. They're more likely to sit there for the whole story, but also you'll then find that if you're reading that, and they said about having post-it notes and just putting at the top of the book what words that you're reading to those 2-year-olds. So then if somebody else picks up, like your assistant, or they borrow it at home, they're reading the same words, baby owl sad. And then you're more likely to see those 2-year-olds, 2.5-year-olds sitting in the cozy den, turning that book, saying, Baby owl sad, mummy's back. And then you're giving them that confidence to read stories, not just for the 3 and 4-year-olds, but for the 2.5-year-olds as well. And
Yeah,
I thought that was a really, really good story. Really haven't implemented it yet. It's on my to-do list, but I thought that's a really, really good way,
yeah,
because you've got those ones, especially that all even 3-year-olds that have got speech delay. You're giving them that confidence. You're giving them those words. Once they've grasped those words, added another one.
yeah. I love that idea.
And that just, they said that just works. It was from a speech and language therapist. They said it just works because you're just giving them a couple of words rather than saying, mummy owl's gone, maybe a fox got her, maybe this, and you're giving them too much, and
Yeah, it's overwhelming, isn't it?
they're not going to listen. But you're giving them those 2 or 3 words, which are then just going to be embedded. They're then going to be able to read those stories to other children or themselves. How are they going to feel about themselves? They're going to feel bleeding proud, aren't they? That actually
Yeah,
they can read that story, even though they're only 2.5, or they've got a speech delay. So that's something I'm definitely going to, implement. I've just got to do it, because like I say, they said about putting post-it notes just at the top of the page with the 2 or 3 words you're reading, so every adult reads the same 2 or 3 words.
yeah. I love that idea.
So I'm definitely going to be doing that. But yeah,
Well, I've
we've
taken a lot away from tonight.
so have I.
That's some good ideas. Good ideas. If anyone has any other ideas about what they do, then please drop us a message and we can share that on our pages.
Yeah, pop it in the comments as well. We'd love to, love to know, because I think books is just, and literacy is such an important part,
Yeah.
because without all that vocab and them being, this their speech, then they can't progress on to other things, can they? So, and I just think if you've got the love of reading, the love of books from an early age, then that's just going to extend, isn't it?
Yeah, for sure. Definitely.
So thanks for listening, guys. I've definitely taken away some bits. I'm going to be going to Tesco's tomorrow night and getting some magazines for my setting, and I'll be implementing my own idea of the short stories.
Yeah.
And yeah, let us know what your takeaways are, and what you use in your setting, what works really well for books, and especially if you have books outdoors as well, just in your outdoor continuous provision. We'd love to hear about that as well.
Yes, please. Thank you very much for listening, and we will catch you next week.
See you later. Bye.
Bye.